The phone call came from my sister Emily 3 weeks before her wedding. "Lisa, we need to talk about the wedding." I was folding laundry while my daughter, Sophie, played with blocks on the living room floor. She was 6 years old, humming to herself as she built elaborate towers. "What's up? Do you need help with anything?" Emily's voice went tight. "Actually, Brian and I have been discussing the guest list. We've decided it would be best if Sophie didn't attend." My hands stopped moving. "What?" "It's going to be a very formal event. Lots of people. Loud music. We're worried she won't be able to handle it. And honestly, we don't want any disruptions. You understand." Sophie had Down syndrome. She was joyful, loving, and yes, sometimes she got overwhelmed in crowded spaces. But she was also my daughter. "You're uninviting my 6-year-old daughter from your wedding?" "We're not uninviting her. We're just saying maybe it's better if she stays home. You can still come. Mom said she'd babysit." "You asked Mom to babysit so I could come to your wedding without my daughter?" "Lisa, don't make this dramatic. She's not normal enough for this kind of event. Brian's family is very traditional. His grandmother is going to be there. We just want everything to be perfect." The words hung in the air. Not normal enough. "I see," I said quietly. "So you understand? You'll come without her?" "No, Emily, I won't. If my daughter isn't welcome, then neither am I." "Lisa, you're being ridiculous. It's my wedding, and she's my daughter, your niece, your family. But clearly, you don't see it that way." I hung up before she could respond. For the next hour, I sat on the couch while Sophie played, oblivious to the conversation that had just excluded her from a family celebration. She brought me her favorite stuffed elephant, concerned by the tears on my face. "Mama's sad?" "A little bit, sweetheart, but I'm okay." "Hug helps?" She climbed into my lap and wrapped her small arms around me. And something crystallized in that moment. If my sister thought Sophie wasn't good enough for her wedding, then Sophie deserved a celebration that actually wanted her there. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. My cousin Amanda answered on the second ring. "Hey Lisa, what's going on? Have you heard about Emily's wedding guest list?" "You mean about Sophie?" "Yeah, Emily told Mom that Sophie wasn't invited because she'd be too much to handle." I was furious. "I almost called you." "I'm not going to the wedding," I said. "And I'm having a party here instead. Same day, for Sophie. Would you come?" Amanda didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. What time?" 2 o'clock. The wedding starts at 4. "Come early. Bring the kids." Over the next 2 hours, I called 15 people. My brother James, my aunt Carol, my childhood best friend Nicole, Sophie's occupational therapist, and friends from Sophie's adaptive dance class. Each conversation was brief. "I'm having a celebration for Sophie on June 10th. Would you like to come?" Every single person said yes. Most already knew about Emily's decision. Some were outraged. None were surprised by my choice. My brother James called me back 20 minutes later. "Lisa, I talked to Megan. We're not going to Emily's wedding. What she did is unforgivable. We'll be at your place instead." "James, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Sophie is family. Emily needs to understand that you can't treat people this way. Especially kids. Especially family." By evening, I had 23 confirmed attendees for Sophie's party. I didn't tell Sophie what had happened with the wedding. I just told her we were having a special party because she was wonderful. Her face lit up. "A party? For me? For you? Can we have pink lemonade?" "We can have whatever you want." The week before June 10th, my mother called. "Lisa, Emily is very upset. Half the family isn't coming to her wedding." "That's their choice, Mom." "But you're having a party on the same day. You're trying to ruin her wedding." "I'm celebrating my daughter, the one who wasn't good enough for Emily's special day." "Emily didn't mean it like that." "Then how did she mean it, Mom, when she said Sophie wasn't normal enough?" Silence. "You could have been the bigger person," Mom finally said. "I am being the bigger person. I'm showing Sophie that she matters, that she's loved, that she doesn't have to shrink herself to make other people comfortable." "But it's Emily's wedding day. And it's Sophie's childhood. Emily will have one wedding. Sophie will remember for the rest of her life whether her family chose her or abandoned her. I'm making sure she knows she was chosen." Mom sighed. "Your father and I will be at the wedding, but we'll stop by your house first. For a little while." "That's your decision." She hung up without saying goodbye. June 10th arrived sunny and warm. I decorated our backyard with streamers in Sophie's favorite colors, pink and purple. We set up tables with snacks and drinks. I made cupcakes with Sophie the night before, and she decorated each one with excessive amounts of sprinkles. Sophie wore her favorite dress, the one with butterflies. She spun in circles in the backyard, making the skirt flare out, laughing with pure delight. The first guests arrived at 1:30. Amanda and her family, carrying gifts for Sophie even though I'd said it wasn't necessary. Then James and Megan came with their 2 boys. Nicole brought her daughter, who was Sophie's best friend from dance class. By 2 o'clock, our house was filling with people. Sophie's therapist brought adaptive games. My Aunt Carol brought a karaoke machine. My brother set up his speaker system in the backyard. By 3 o'clock, I counted 35 people. The backyard buzzed with conversation and laughter. Sophie was the center of attention, dancing, playing, and being celebrated exactly as she was. My parents arrived at 3:15, staying for exactly 20 minutes before leaving for the wedding. Dad hugged Sophie tight. Mom kissed her forehead but avoided looking at me. By 4 o'clock, the exact time Emily's wedding was starting, our party was in full swing. Kids ran through the sprinkler. Adults clustered in conversation groups. Someone started a game of cornhole. Sophie and her friends performed an impromptu dance show they'd clearly been planning, complete with costume changes and very serious bows. The celebration had taken on a life of its own. What started as a quiet statement became something bigger. A gathering of people who understood that love doesn't come with conditions, that normal is a meaningless standard, that Sophie deserved to be celebrated, not hidden. Around 6 o'clock, my phone started buzzing with texts. My cousin Emma, who'd gone to the wedding, wrote, "This is awful. There are maybe 30 people here. The venue is huge. It looks empty." Then my Uncle Steve texted, "We left the wedding early. Can we still come to your party?" 15 minutes later, Uncle Steve arrived with his wife and 3 kids. Then came my cousin's family, followed by another branch of relatives who'd gone to the wedding but left after the ceremony. By 7 o'clock, we had over 50 people in our house and yard. The party that was supposed to be a quiet alternative had become the main event. Sophie was exhausted but radiant. She'd been hugged by dozens of people, played countless games, and eaten too many cupcakes. She fell asleep on the couch around 7:30, surrounded by people who loved her. By 8, I was cleaning up with help from friends who'd stayed. That's when I saw headlights in the driveway. Emily's car. My stomach dropped. James saw my expression and stepped closer. "Want me to handle this?" "No. I've got it." I walked to the driveway. Emily got out of the car still wearing her wedding dress. Her makeup was smudged. She'd been crying. She stood there, trembling, holding something in her hands. "Emily?" She couldn't speak at first. Just stood there shaking, tears streaming down her face. Finally, she held out what she was carrying. It was the wedding guest book. I could see from where I stood that most of the pages were empty. 47 people, Emily whispered. "We invited 200. 47 people came to my wedding." I didn't know what to say. Brian's parents kept asking where everyone was. His grandmother made comments about how we must not have many real friends. The photographer had to adjust all the shots because the venue looked so empty. The caterers had so much extra food. "Emily, I ruined my own wedding." Her voice broke. "I excluded a 6-year-old child because I wanted everything to be perfect, and instead I showed everyone exactly what kind of person I am. The kind who values appearances over family. The kind who uses words like not normal enough about her own niece." She looked past me at the house, still glowing with lights and full of people. "Your party looks beautiful," she said. I drove past around 5 o'clock. I saw all the cars, heard the laughter, saw Sophie dancing in the yard, and I realized what I'd done. I chose perfection over love. I chose judgment over acceptance. And I lost everything that actually matters. I stood there, holding my sister's wedding guest book, evidence of her humiliation written in empty pages. Brian and I had a huge fight after the ceremony, Emily continued. He blamed me for the low attendance, said my family was punishing him. His mother said we should have eloped. Our first dance was in front of 20 people in a room meant for 300. It was mortifying. "What do you want from me, Emily?" "I don't know." She wiped her face, smearing her makeup further. "Forgiveness? Understanding? I don't deserve either. I couldn't go home without coming here, without telling you that you were right, that I was wrong, that Sophie is perfect exactly as she is, and I'm the one who's not good enough." James joined me, seeing Emily's distress. I'm so sorry, Emily said to both of us. I'm so sorry to Sophie. I'm sorry I let my insecurity and my need for some imaginary perfect day make me cruel. I'm sorry I hurt the sweetest kid in our family because I was worried about what Brian's grandmother would think. What does Brian think now? James asked quietly. He's furious. We're barely speaking. His family left right after dinner. They said they were embarrassed. He said I'd humiliated him by making our family hate us. He doesn't understand that this isn't about him. It's about me being terrible. We stood in my driveway, the three of us. Music still drifted from the backyard, where a few friends remained. Through the window, I could see Sophie still asleep on the couch, peaceful and loved. I don't expect you to forgive me, Emily said. I don't expect Sophie to ever forget that I excluded her. I just needed you to know that I understand what I did, and that seeing all those empty seats at my wedding was the clearest message the universe could have sent me. What message was that? I asked. That when you choose appearances over people, you end up with nothing real. Nothing that matters. Just empty chairs and a guest book with 47 signatures instead of 200. She handed me the guest book like she was passing over evidence of her own failure. I should go, she said. Brian's probably wondering where I am. Not that he's worried about me, just about what else might go wrong today. Emily, wait. She turned back, hopeful. I can't tell you that everything's okay, because it's not. You hurt Sophie. You hurt me. You showed me that your love comes with conditions. Her face crumpled. But I continued, if you're serious about understanding what you did wrong, if you're genuinely willing to learn and change, then maybe someday we can work toward forgiveness. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. What do I need to do? Start by getting to know Sophie, really know her. Spend time with her without treating her like a problem to be managed. Learn about Down syndrome, understand that different doesn't mean less. And never, ever use the phrase not normal enough about anyone again. Emily nodded, tears still falling. I'll do that. All of it. I promise. And Emily, you need to figure out if you married someone who values the same things you do. Because Brian being angry about attendance numbers instead of understanding why people didn't come. That's a bigger problem than a poorly attended wedding. She looked down at her expensive wedding dress, the one she'd spent months choosing. I know, I've been realizing that all day. James put his hand on Emily's shoulder. Go home. Think about what you really want. And when you're ready to actually be Sophie's aunt, not the person who excludes her, but the person who celebrates her, call Lisa. Emily hugged herself, shivering despite the warm evening. Thank you for not just slamming the door in my face. I didn't do it for you, I said honestly. I did it for Sophie, because someday she'll be old enough to ask why her aunt didn't want her at the wedding. And I want to be able to tell her that her aunt learned and changed and became someone worth knowing. Emily nodded and walked back to her car. She sat there for a moment before driving away, still crying. James and I stood in the driveway, watching her taillights disappear. That was hard, James said. Yeah, you think she'll actually change? I don't know, but I gave her the roadmap. What she does with it is up to her. We walked back inside. Sophie was stirring on the couch, blinking sleepily. When she saw me, she smiled. Best party ever, Mama. I sat down next to her and pulled her close. Yeah, baby, best party ever. Because it was. Not because we had the most people or the fanciest decorations, but because every single person there chose love over judgment, chose Sophie over appearances, chose what was real over what looked perfect. Emily's wedding guest book sat on my counter, a testament to what happens when you forget what actually matters. 47 signatures out of 200 invitations. Empty pages telling a story about empty priorities. But our house was full of people, of laughter, of acceptance, of love. And Sophie, the little girl who wasn't normal enough for a formal wedding, had spent the day being celebrated exactly as she was, perfect, beautiful, and worthy of everything. The message on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, Family Reunion, August 12th. I opened it expecting the usual details about potluck assignments and start times. Instead, I got this. Jennifer, we've decided it's best if you come to the reunion without Marcus this year. He disrupts the peace with his behavior. And several family members have expressed concerns. We think it would be better for everyone if he stayed home. We're sure you understand. Love, Mom and Dad. I read it 3 times. My son Marcus was 8 years old and autistic. His disruptive behavior meant he sometimes got overwhelmed at loud gatherings and needed quiet breaks. He stymied by flapping his hands when he was happy. He asked questions repeatedly when processing information. I called my mother immediately. "Mom, I got your email." "Oh, good. So you understand. It's nothing personal, honey. It's just that Aunt Beverly's coming this year, and you know how she is about noise. And Uncle Frank's recovering from surgery. We just want a peaceful day. Marcus is 8 years old. You're uninviting your grandson to a family reunion." "We're not uninviting him. We're just asking if maybe this year he could stay with a sitter. You could come for a few hours, enjoy yourself for once without having to worry about him." "Worry about him? I don't worry about him at family events. I worry about family members who treat him like a problem." "Jennifer, don't be dramatic. You know what I mean. He needs constant attention. You can't even have a normal conversation at these things because you're always managing him." "Managing him? I'm parenting him. That's what parents do. And we're just trying to make sure everyone has a nice time. Is that so terrible?" I felt my chest tighten. "So Marcus being there means people can't have a nice time." "You're twisting my words. Look, it's already decided. Your brothers agree. Your father agrees. This is what's best for the family." "For the family?" I repeated slowly. "Just not for Marcus. He's not part of the family." "Of course he's family. Don't put words in my mouth. We'll do something special with him another time, just the three of us. But the reunion is going to be adults and the older kids this year. It'll be easier for everyone." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. That afternoon, I sat in my backyard and looked at the space. We had half an acre, string lights we hung last summer, a decent patio, and a fire pit my late husband had built before he died. I called my Aunt Linda first. She'd always been the rebel of the family, the one who spoke her mind. "Linda, it's Jennifer. How are you feeling about the reunion next month?" "Honestly, I was going to skip it. Your mother sent that ridiculous email about Marcus. What was she thinking?" My heart lifted slightly. "You got that email too?" She sent it to the whole family. Wanted everyone's input on whether Marcus should come. I replied and told her she was being cruel. She didn't respond. She asked the whole family to vote on whether my son could attend. "Oh, honey, you didn't know?" She sent a group email asking if people would prefer a calm, adult-focused gathering this year. "I'm sorry, I thought you knew." I felt sick. She polled the family about my son. Some people agreed with her, your brother Ryan did, and Frank, obviously. But most of us were horrified. "I know Sarah told your mother off, and your brother Mike was furious." "I'm having my own gathering," I said suddenly. "Same day, at my house. Would you come?" Linda didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. What time?" 2 o'clock. "Bring whoever you want." I spent the next hour making calls. Aunt Sarah, Uncle Tom, my brother Mike, my cousin Jessica. Each call started the same way. "I'm having a family gathering at my house on August 12th. I'd love it if you could come." I didn't mention my parents' reunion. I didn't need to. They all knew. By evening, I'd gotten 14 confirmed yes responses, more than half the people who'd been invited to my parents' event. My brother Mike called me back an hour later. "Jennifer, I talked to my kids. They want to come to your place. They love Marcus. Katie's been asking when she can see him again. Of course they're welcome. I'm bringing my grill. And Sarah said she's making her famous potato salad. Linda's bringing drinks. This is turning into a real party." "Mike, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. What Mom did was wrong. We all know it, and we're showing up for you and Marcus. That's what family does." I cried after I hung up. The week before August 12th, my mother called. "Jennifer, I'm hearing some concerning things. Are you having a party on the same day as the reunion?" "I'm having a family gathering, yes." "That's incredibly passive-aggressive. You're trying to sabotage our event." "I'm including my son in a family celebration, something you chose not to do." "So you're punishing us? Making people choose sides?" "I'm not making anyone do anything, Mom. I invited people to my home. They chose whether or not to come. Well, it's working. Half the family is saying they're going to your house instead. Do you know how humiliating this is? Do you know how humiliating it was to receive an email uninviting my son from a family reunion? Do you know how humiliating it was to learn you polled the entire family about whether Marcus was welcome?" Silence. "I did that for your benefit, so you wouldn't feel like I was making the decision alone. You did it to build a case against my son, to get people to agree with you so I'd feel outnumbered. That's not fair." "You're right. None of this is fair. But I'm done arguing about it. You're having your reunion. I'm having my gathering. People will go where they feel welcomed. Jennifer. I hung up. August 12th arrived hot and clear. Marcus woke up excited. He helped me plan the menu, picked out games, and made a welcome sign for the front yard. He had no idea about my parents' competing event. He just knew people were coming to celebrate with him. By 1 o'clock, my backyard was transformed. String lights glowed even in the afternoon sun. Tables were set with colorful tablecloths. A kiddie pool sat in the corner for the younger children. Marcus's favorite foods were laid out: chicken nuggets, watermelon, mac and cheese, and a chocolate cake he'd helped decorate. The first guest arrived at 1:45, Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom with their 3 kids, then Mike with his family. By 2:30, my backyard was filled with people. Sarah arrived with her famous potato salad and her husband carrying a cooler of drinks. Jessica brought her teenagers, who immediately started playing cornhole with Marcus, letting him win half the games. My cousin David showed up with a guitar and started playing music in the corner. By sunset, I counted 32 people in my yard. 32 family members who chose to be here. Who chose Marcus? Who chose love over conditional acceptance? I watched from the patio as my son's face glowed with pure joy, and something in my chest that had been tight for months finally loosened. Marcus was in heaven. He ran from group to group, stimming happily, flapping his hands when he got excited about something someone said. He asked his favorite questions repeatedly, about people's favorite colors, their pets, and what they ate for breakfast. And every single person engaged with him. They answered his questions patiently the 3rd and 4th time he asked, smiled at his excitement, and included him in conversations and games without making him feel like he needed to earn his place there. No one asked him to be quieter. No one pulled me aside to complain. No one treated his autism like a problem to be managed. This was what family was supposed to look like. Around 8 o'clock, as the sky turned purple and the string lights became the main source of illumination, my brother Mike pulled me aside. Have you heard from Mom and Dad? No. Why? I drove past their house on the way here. There were maybe 6 cars there. Frank's, Ryan's, Beverly's. That's about it. I don't think their reunion went as planned. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. The party continued. Kids ran around catching fireflies. Adults clustered in conversation groups. Someone started a fire in the pit. Marcus sat next to the fire with Uncle Tom, asking him questions about the stars while Tom patiently pointed out constellations. At 10:30, parents started gathering kids and saying goodbyes. Marcus was exhausted but glowing with happiness. He'd been hugged by dozens of people, told repeatedly how much he was loved, and included completely in a family celebration built around him. By 11, only Linda and Mike's families remained, helping me clean up. That's when headlights appeared in my driveway. My father's car. I froze. Linda saw my expression and touched my arm. Want me to handle it? No, I've got it. I walked to the driveway as my father got out of the car. Even in the dim light, I could see his face was blotchy. He'd been crying. Dad? He didn't speak, just stood there, holding something in his hands. Mike joined me. Dad? What's going on? Dad finally looked up, and I saw tears streaming down his face. He held out what he was carrying. It was Marcus's baby blanket, the one my late husband and I had brought him home from the hospital in, the one we kept at my parents' house for overnight visits. The soft blue one Marcus had loved until he was 5. I found this tonight. Dad's voice broke. In the closet. I was looking for something else, and I found this, and He couldn't continue. I took the blanket, confused. Dad, I don't understand. Your mother left. After the reunion. After everyone left early or didn't show up at all. After Ryan made some comment about how we turned a family gathering into a loyalty test and how we'd lost. She packed a bag and went to her sister's. She told me I needed to fix this or she wasn't coming back. Mike and I exchanged glances. Dad continued, I was angry at first. Angry at you for having this party, angry at everyone for choosing your event over ours, angry at myself for everything. Then I found this blanket, and he broke down completely. He was so small when we brought him home to visit. Do you remember? He fit in my arms. He'd grab my finger and squeeze. And I was so proud to be his grandpa. I remembered. Dad had been wonderful with Marcus as a baby. What happened to me? Dad asked, his voice raw. When did I start seeing him as a problem instead of my grandson? When did making Aunt Beverly comfortable become more important than including my own grandchild? I didn't have an answer. I drove past here around 6 o'clock, Dad admitted. I saw all the cars, heard the laughter, saw Marcus playing with his cousins. And I sat in my car at the end of the street and realized what I'd done. I excluded my grandson. I made you choose between your son and your family. I let other people's comfort matter more than his belonging. Mike spoke softly. Dad, we tried to tell you. I know. And I dismissed it. I made excuses. I convinced myself we were being reasonable. Dad looked at me. Can you ever forgive me? I held my son's baby blanket, feeling the soft, worn fabric. I thought about Marcus inside, probably already asleep, exhausted from the best day he had in months. I thought about the 32 people who'd shown up today without hesitation. I thought about the family I built in my backyard tonight. I don't know, Dad, I said honestly. You hurt us, badly. You made my son feel unwelcome in his own family. I know. And this isn't just about one reunion. This is about years of comments, years of suggestions that Marcus should change, that I should manage him better, that his autism is something to be fixed rather than accepted. Dad nodded, tears still falling. You're right. About all of it. So no, I can't just forgive you because you showed up crying with a blanket. That's not how this works. I understand. But I continued, if you're serious about fixing this, if you're genuinely willing to change how you see Marcus and treat him, then maybe we can work toward forgiveness. Slowly, with time and consistent effort. I'll do anything. Then start by learning about autism. Really learning, not just reading one article. Start by spending time with Marcus without trying to correct or change him. Start by standing up to people like Aunt Beverly when they make comments. Start by making him feel like he belongs, not like he's merely tolerated. Yes, all of that. I promise. Mike put his hand on Dad's shoulder. And Dad? Mom needs to be part of this too. This can't just be you making amends. She needs to understand what she did wrong. Dad nodded. She knows. That's why she left. She told me she was ashamed, that she let her need to appear like the perfect family host override her actual duty to her actual family. We stood in my driveway for a long moment, the three of us. The sounds of Linda finishing cleanup in the backyard drifted over. Somewhere in the distance, the last fireflies of summer blinked in the darkness. It's late, I finally said. And Marcus is sleeping. But if you want to come back next weekend, Saturday morning, we usually make pancakes. You could join us. No pressure, no big conversation. Just pancakes with your grandson. Dad's face crumpled with relief and gratitude. I'd love that. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. He hugged me, still clutching the blanket between us, and I let him. Not because everything was fixed. Not because one conversation erased the hurt. But because family is complicated, and forgiveness is a process, and sometimes the first step toward healing is just showing up. Even if it's at midnight, with tears on your face and a baby blanket in your hands, finally understanding what you almost lost. The birthday party was held at my father's flagship restaurant, Morrison's Italian Kitchen. My daughter, Lily, was turning 10. Despite everything, despite years of minimal contact and maximum judgment, I'd accepted his offer to host her party. He'd insisted. Family should celebrate together. He'd said on the phone, I'll take care of everything. I should have known better. The restaurant's private dining room was decorated with balloons and streamers. My father's new wife, Denise, was there with her 2 children from a previous marriage, both around Lily's age. My father's siblings, a few cousins, some family friends, about 20 people total. The food was excellent, as expected. My father might be many things, but his restaurant served good Italian food. That's why Morrison's Italian Kitchen had 5 locations across 2 states and generated $8 million annually. Or at least that's what the business generated now, under new ownership. Gift time came after cake. Denise's children went first, opening their presents in front of everyone like a performance. Her son opened a new gaming console, the latest model, probably $500. The box was enormous, professionally wrapped. Her daughter got a designer handbag that I recognized from a boutique downtown, at least $300. Both children squealed with appropriate delight, hugging their grandfather and posing for photos. Lily's turn, my father announced, wheeling out a large cart with several wrapped boxes stacked on it. The boxes were elaborately wrapped in gold paper with white ribbons, looking expensive and thoughtful. I got my granddaughter something very special this year. Lily looked at me nervously. She had learned to be cautious around her grandfather, had picked up on the subtle ways he dismissed us. The jokes that weren't quite jokes, the comments that stung. But she was 10, and the boxes looked promising. Maybe this time would be different. She opened the first one carefully, trying not to tear the pretty paper. Inside was an empty pizza box. Morrison's logo printed on top, the cardboard clean but clearly used. Nothing inside, not even crumbs. Lily stared at it, confused. Is there something underneath? Keep going, my father said, his smile widening. There's more. The second box held empty pasta containers, the kind the restaurant used for takeout orders, the clear plastic ones with Morrison's logo on the lid. Clean, but obviously empty. She opened each one, checking. Nothing. The third box was filled with empty bread baskets, the wicker kind from the restaurant tables, and sauce cups with dried remnants around the rims. Lily looked up at me, her confusion turning to her as she realized this wasn't a joke with a punchline coming. This was the joke. It's a joke, sweetie, my father said loudly. You need to practice being hungry. Poor kids stay hungry, right? Your mom can't afford to feed you properly on her little salary, so I thought I'd help you get used to it. The room erupted in laughter. My father's brother nearly choked on his wine. A cousin slapped the table. Denise covered her mouth, giggling. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the empty containers, at the laughing adults, at me. I don't understand, she whispered. Your mom made choices, my father continued, enjoying his audience. Left the family. Decided to make it on her own. Proud and foolish. Now look where it got her. Struggling. Can barely afford that apartment you live in. I'm teaching you early. When you come from nothing, you stay nothing. More laughter. Someone made a joke about food banks. Another person mentioned welfare. I'd been sitting quietly, watching this performance. I'd known something was coming. My father couldn't resist humiliating me, especially in front of family. It's who he was. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. Actually, Dad, I'm glad you brought finances and business success. I've been meaning to talk to you about that. About what? How you need money. I'm not a bank, Catherine. No, you're not a bank. You're an employee, my employee. The laughter stopped abruptly. The room went from boisterous to silent in seconds. What are you talking about? I opened the folder and pulled out documents, spreading them across the table so everyone could see. Morrison's Italian Kitchen. 5 locations across Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Annual revenue approximately $8 million, but struggling with $600,000 in accumulated debt, declining customer numbers by 15% year over year, poor cost management, and vendor contracts that were bleeding money. 8 months ago, you needed capital desperately to avoid bankruptcy. The bank was threatening to call your business loans. My father's face went from confused to red. That's private business information. How do you? It's my business information. You sold 65% of Morrison's Italian Kitchen to an investment firm called Cascade Holdings. Do you remember signing the papers? Meeting with your attorney and banker? Reviewing multiple offers from potential investors? I took on investors, partners, business partners. I'm still in charge of my restaurants. You're the general manager, an employee. I am the owner. I slid the core documents across the table. Cascade Holdings LLC is my company. I bought your restaurants 8 months ago for $3.2 million. My father snatched the papers with shaking hands. Certificate of ownership showing Cascade Holdings owning 65% of Morrison's Italian Kitchen. Incorporated transfer documents with his signature clearly visible at the bottom. Articles of incorporation listing Catherine Morrison as principal and managing member of Cascade Holdings LLC. Bank records showing a wire transfer of $3,200,000 from Cascade Holdings to David Morrison. This can't be real. It's very real. Your attorney handled the sale. You signed everything. You just never asked who was buying. Denise grabbed the documents from him. David, you sold the restaurants. You told me you owned them outright. I do own them. I built them. You own 35%. I corrected. You sold majority control to raise capital. All transactions were legal and documented. You met with investors through your banker, reviewed offers, accepted mine. The fact that you didn't bother to learn who was behind Cascade Holdings isn't my problem. My father's brother leaned over to look at the papers. Holy shit, David. Your daughter owns your business? I own 65% of a restaurant chain that was failing under mismanagement. The board of directors reports to me. Major decisions require my approval. Dad, here is salaried management. I pulled out another document. Your employment contract. Signed 8 months ago. $180,000 annually. Standard benefits. Employment at will. The room was silent now. All the relatives who'd been laughing watched my father process this information. This is still my restaurant, he said weakly. My name's on the door. The trademark for Morrison's Italian Kitchen is owned by Cascade Holdings, the parent company. My company. The recipes, the branding, the locations, all of it. You're an employee who happens to have the same last name as the business. I turned to Lily, who was watching with wide eyes. Sweetie, why don't you go with Aunt Mary to the main dining room and order whatever dessert you want, the real kind, with actual food in it? My sister-in-law, who'd always been kind to us, quickly ushered Lily out. I waited until they were gone before continuing. Let's talk about why I'm telling you this now, Dad. 8 months ago, when I bought majority control, I planned to stay silent. Let you keep running things, just provide oversight. Fix the financials quietly. But tonight you gave my daughter empty food containers and told her to practice being hungry. You humiliated a 10-year-old child to make yourself feel superior. It was a joke. It was cruel. Just like you've always been cruel about my choices. I left home at 18. You told me I'd fail. I built a career in private equity. You said I was wasting my time. I now manage a $200 million investment fund. You assumed I was poor. My father's face had gone from red to pale. The truth is, Dad, I've been successful for years. When your restaurant started failing, when you needed investors, I saw an opportunity, not for revenge, but for business. I paid fair market value for a controlling stake in an underperforming asset. You're my daughter, you should have told me. You're my father, you should have asked about my life at some point in the last 12 years instead of assuming I was struggling. Denise stood up. David, we need to talk, privately. Sit down, I said calmly. This is a business discussion. It concerns everyone here who's been enjoying Dad's supposed success. I pulled out another folder. Performance review. As general manager, Dad's decisions have cost the business approximately $200,000 annually in unnecessary overhead and poor vendor contracts. Customer satisfaction scores have declined 15% over 3 years. 2 locations are barely profitable. You've been reviewing my work? I'm the owner. It's my job. And here's what I've found. You're not very good at running restaurants. You're good at cooking. Good at front-of-house charm. Terrible at actual management. My uncle spoke up. Catherine, this is harsh. He's your father. He just gave my daughter empty food containers and made her cry. I'm being professional. I could be much harsher. I closed the folder. Here's what happens next. Monday morning, we have a meeting, you, me, and an HR representative. We'll discuss your future with the company. Option 1. You stay as general manager with significantly reduced authority and heavy oversight. Option 2. You resign, take a generous severance package, and keep your 35% ownership stake as a passive investor. You can't fire me. I'm the majority owner. I can restructure any position. You're employed at will. I have documented performance issues. I absolutely can fire you. I'm being kind by offering resignation as an option. This is my business, my legacy. Your legacy is 5 restaurants that were failing until I bought them. Your name is on the door, but I own the door. I stood up. Think about your options. The meeting is at 9 Monday morning. I walked out to find Lily in the main dining room with my sister-in-law, eating a piece of chocolate cake that actually had substance. Can we go home, Mom? Yes, sweetheart. And we're not coming back here for family events. In the car, Lily was quiet for several minutes before asking, Did you really buy Grandpa's restaurants? Yes. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because it was business, not personal. But tonight made it personal. He was cruel to you. That's not acceptable. Are you going to fire him? I'm going to give him options. What he chooses is up to him. Monday's meeting was predictably difficult. My father arrived with Denise and an attitude of defiance. He'd spent the weekend convincing himself I was bluffing. The HR representative, a professional I'd hired from outside the company, laid out everything: performance documentation, financial analysis, market comparisons showing other restaurant groups with better metrics. These restaurants could be generating 10 million annually with proper management, she concluded. They're underperforming by 25%. My father tried to argue, tried to blame the economy, competition, changing demographics. I let him talk himself out. Your choice, I finally said. Stay with oversight and performance requirements or resign with severance. You're doing this because of empty pizza boxes. I'm doing this because you've been mismanaging a business I own. The pizza boxes just made me stop avoiding the decision. He chose resignation. Pride wouldn't let him accept oversight. The severance was generous, $100,000, and he kept his 35% ownership stake. As a passive shareholder, he'd receive dividend distributions but have no operational authority. I hired a professional restaurant manager with 20 years of experience. She implemented changes immediately, updated the menu, improved cost controls, enhanced marketing, trained staff properly. 6 months later, revenue was up 30%. Customer satisfaction scores increased. 2 of the struggling locations became profitable. I opened a third location in a new market. My father received his first dividend check as a passive shareholder, $80,000 for 6 months. More than he contributed to the business in the entire previous year. He called me. The restaurants are doing well. Yes, professional management helps. I saw the new menu. It's good. Different but good. The new GM knows what she's doing. Silence on the line. Then, I was wrong about the empty boxes. About a lot of things. Yes, you were. Can I apologize to Lily? You can send a letter. If she wants to see you after that, it'll be her choice. He sent the letter. Lily read it, thought about it, and decided she wanted nothing to do with her grandfather. She was old enough to make that choice. Denise divorced my father 14 months after the party. Turns out she'd married him for his success and status. When he became an employee with dividend income instead of a restaurant owner with authority, she lost interest. My father moved to a smaller house. Lived comfortably on his dividend income and severance, but not lavishly. Watched from the sidelines as I expanded Morrison's Italian kitchen to 8 locations across 3 states. His legacy became that his daughter built what he couldn't maintain. 2 years after the birthday party, Lily and I were at one of the newer Morrison's locations. A family at the next table was celebrating a birthday. The father was making the toast about how proud he was of his daughter's achievements. Lily watched them, then looked at me. Do you think Grandpa understands now? Understands what? That the empty boxes were never about me being poor. They were about him feeling small. That's very wise. You taught me that. You showed me that when people try to make you feel small, sometimes you just show them how big you actually are. I kept one of those empty pizza boxes from the party. It sits on a shelf in my office at Cascade Holdings, between a photo of Lily and a framed Forbes article about successful women in private equity. People ask why I keep an empty pizza box in such a prominent place. I tell them it's a reminder that empty gestures reveal more about the person giving them than the person receiving them. My father gave Lily empty containers and told her to practice being hungry. I gave him a business structure where he practiced being humble. Both were lessons. Only one of us meant ours kindly. The group text came while I was making dinner. Messages filled the family chat about Disney, only 6 weeks away. My daughter, Emma, was 7 and obsessed with Disney princesses. She'd been counting down the days. Then Mom's message appeared. Nicole, we need to talk about Emma and the trip. Call me when you can. My stomach dropped. I stepped into the hallway and dialed her number. Hi, honey, she answered. I'm glad you called. Your father and I have been discussing the Disney trip, and we're concerned about logistics. What kind of logistics? Well, Emma's wheelchair. The parks are huge. She's going to slow everyone down. We have the other grandkids to think about. They'll want to move quickly, see everything. We can't spend the whole week accommodating one person's limitations. I stood in the hallway, trying to process what I was hearing. You're saying Emma can't come because she uses a wheelchair? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe this particular trip isn't the best fit for her. Disney is exhausting even for typical kids. For Emma, with her cerebral palsy, all that heat, walking, and crowds, it would be miserable for her. We'd all be miserable trying to keep up. Keep up? Mom, Disney has accessibility services. The parks are completely wheelchair accessible. Emma would love it. Nicole, be realistic. The other kids will want to run from ride to ride. They're not going to want to wait while we navigate wheelchair ramps and accessible entrances. And what about the photos? We wanted nice family pictures. Having a wheelchair in every shot is going to make that difficult. The words hit me like a physical blow. You're worried about wheelchairs ruining your photos? Don't twist my words. I'm thinking about everyone's experience. Maybe you and Emma could do a mother-daughter trip another time, just the two of you. Then you could go at her pace. Do the things she can handle. The things she can handle, I repeated slowly. You know what I mean. The trip is already booked. The rental house sleeps 12. We've made reservations. It's just easier if it's the 8 adults and the 5 ambulatory grandchildren. 13 is an awkward number anyway. So you're uninviting my daughter from the family vacation because her disability is inconvenient. Nicole, you're making this about something it's not. We love Emma. This is purely practical. Who else knows about this? Silence. Mom, who else agrees with you? Your father and I discussed it. Kevin thinks it makes sense logistically. Ashley wasn't sure, but she agreed the other kids should be the priority. This is a once-in-a-lifetime trip for them. And not for Emma? She's not worth a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Stop putting words in my mouth. Look, we've made our decision. You're welcome to come without her. I'm sure you could use the break. Being Emma's caregiver full-time must be exhausting. I hung up without saying goodbye. Emma rolled into the hallway in her wheelchair, concern on her face. Mommy, you look sad. I knelt down and hugged her. I'm okay, baby. Are we still going to see Mickey Mouse? My heart broke. She'd been talking about this trip for months. She had a countdown calendar on her wall. She'd been practicing her autograph book signatures. Yes, sweetheart. We're absolutely going to see Mickey Mouse. Just not with them. That night, after Emma went to bed, I opened my laptop. I booked Emma and me for the same week as the family trip. Different hotel, same parks. If they thought Emma couldn't keep up, I proved them wrong. I posted in an adaptive parenting group asking for Disney accessibility tips. The response was overwhelming. I learned about Disney's disability access service, accessible rides, and wheelchair-friendly restaurants. I booked character dining, reserved accessible viewing for fireworks, and planned every detail. I didn't tell my family. When Mom texted asking if I'd made peace with the decision, I replied, Emma and I have other plans that week. 3 days before the trip, my sister Ashley called. Nicole, I feel terrible. Tom and I want to join your trip instead. The kids keep asking about Emma, what you're doing. That's what family should be. By the next day, Kevin called too. Jen and I are switching to your trip. The boys won't stop asking about Emma. Can you send the hotel information? When Mom found out both siblings were switching, she called me, furious. You're sabotaging our vacation. I'm taking my daughter to Disney World. The family chose differently. That's not sabotage. That's consequence. July arrived hot and humid. Emma's excitement was contagious. She wore her Cinderella dress to the airport and clutched her autograph book the entire flight. We checked into our hotel, a beautiful resort with a lazy river pool and princess-themed rooms. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw the castle mural on the wall. This is the best day ever, and we haven't even seen Mickey yet. That afternoon, Ashley's family checked in, then Kevin's family. The kids ran to Emma immediately, hugging her and showing her their matching Mickey ear hats. My nephew Tyler, who was 9, knelt by Emma's wheelchair. Aunt Nicole, I made Emma a surprise. He pulled out a decorated bag with Emma's name on it. Inside were trading pins, a light-up Mickey wand, and a handmade card that said, Best cousin ever. Emma cried happy tears. That first evening, we had dinner at our hotel restaurant. The kids sat together, making plans for the parks. Emma was right in the middle, laughing, talking, included, and celebrated. My phone buzzed. A text from my dad. Your mother and I arrived at the rental house. It's very quiet. I didn't respond. Day 1 at Magic Kingdom was pure magic. Emma's face when she saw Cinderella's castle made every bit of planning worth it. The disability access service meant we didn't spend hours in lines. Emma could rest between rides without feeling like she was holding everyone back. When we met Cinderella, the princess knelt down to Emma's eye level. I heard there was a special princess visiting today, she said. Emma glowed. By day 2, something wonderful was happening. Other families at the parks kept approaching us. They'd see Emma in her decorated wheelchair, surrounded by cousins who clearly adored her, and they'd smile. One mother stopped me in line for Peter Pan. I have a daughter with CP2. Seeing your family all together like this, the way those kids include her, it's beautiful. My family doesn't get it. I have this stranger in the middle of Disney World. By day 3, we developed a reputation. The cast members at our hotel started calling us the real family. They'd wave to Emma by name. One cast member told me she'd worked at Disney for 15 years, and our family's dynamic was the most heartwarming thing she'd ever seen. That night, we had reservations at Be Our Guest restaurant. The kids were exhausted but happy. Emma had met every princess she'd wanted to meet. She had a pin collection that covered her wheelchair bag. She'd watched the fireworks from a special accessible viewing area where she could see perfectly. We were walking back to the hotel, tired and happy, when my phone rang, Dad's number. It was close to midnight. I almost didn't answer. Nicole? Dad's voice was rough. Are you still awake? We just got back to the hotel. What's wrong? Can I come see you? I'm in the parking lot. My stomach dropped. You're here? At our hotel? I drove over from the rental house. I need to talk to you. 10 minutes later, Dad appeared in the hotel lobby. He looked terrible, exhausted, like he'd been crying. Ashley and Kevin saw him and joined me, forming a protective wall. Dad, Kevin said, what are you doing here? Dad looked at the three of us, his adult children united. I came to apologize, and to ask if I can see Emma. Why? I asked. He pulled something out of his jacket pocket. It was a photo album, the old kind, with printed pictures. I spent the last 3 days alone in that rental house. Your mother is furious. She's barely speaking to me. She says I should be supporting her decision, not questioning it. But I kept thinking about Emma, about what we did. He opened the album. It was full of photos of Emma as a baby, as a toddler. Dad holding her. Dad pushing her on a swing. Dad laughing as she smashed cake on his face at her first birthday. I was looking through old photos, trying to understand when I stopped seeing her as my granddaughter and started seeing her as an inconvenience. These pictures, she was so small, and I loved her so completely. His voice broke. Then I found this. He pointed to a photo from 2 years ago, Emma in her wheelchair at the park, surrounded by her cousins. Everyone was laughing. It was a perfect moment. The wheelchair isn't what I see in this photo, Dad said. I see a happy kid, a loved kid, a kid who belongs. And I realized we took that away from her. We told her she doesn't belong because she can't walk. What kind of grandparents do that? Ashley stepped forward. Dad, why didn't you say this before the trip? I was weak. Your mother was so convinced, and Kevin and I went along with it because it was easier than arguing. But sitting in that empty rental house these past 3 days, knowing you were all here together, knowing Emma was having the time of her life without us, it broke something in me. He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. Can I see her? Can I tell her I'm sorry? She's asleep, I said. It's past midnight. Tomorrow then? I'll come back tomorrow. I'll do whatever you want. I'll apologize 1,000 times. I'll push her wheelchair through every park. I just need her to know that I love her, that I was wrong. Kevin spoke up. What about Mom? Your mother and I have a lot to discuss when I get back. She's angry that I came here. She thinks I'm betraying her. But I can't keep pretending that what we did was okay. Emma is our granddaughter. She deserves better than grandparents who exclude her. We stood in the hotel lobby, the 5 of us. Through the windows, I could see the pool lights reflecting off the water. Upstairs, Emma slept peacefully, having had the best 3 days of her young life. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You can join us tomorrow, Magic Kingdom, 9 in the morning. You'll meet us at the castle. And Dad? You're going to push Emma's wheelchair all day. You're going to see exactly how well she keeps up, how the accessibility works, how much joy she brings to every moment. Yes, he said immediately. Yes, thank you. And when we get home, you're going to have a serious conversation with Mom, because if she can't accept Emma as she is, then she's choosing to lose all of us. Dad nodded, wiping his face. I know, I will. I promise. He left with the photo album still in his hands. Ashley looked at me. Do you think he'll actually follow through? I don't know, but I gave him the chance. What he does with it is up to him. The next morning, Dad was waiting at the castle at 8:50. He brought Emma a special Minnie Mouse wheelchair cover he'd somehow found that morning. When Emma saw him, she squealed with delight. Grandpa, you came to Disney. He knelt down and hugged her tight. I'm so sorry I almost missed this, sweetheart. I was being very silly. It's okay, Grandpa. Want to see my pin collection? He spent the entire day with us. He pushed Emma's wheelchair through the parks. He saw how the accessibility services worked seamlessly. He watched strangers smile at Emma's joy. He saw his other grandchildren naturally include her in everything. At lunch he pulled me aside. I was so wrong about everything. She's having the time of her life. And the wheelchair, it's not a burden. It's just a tool, like glasses or a hearing aid. I don't know why I couldn't see that before. Because Mom convinced you it would be hard, and you believed her instead of trusting Emma. I know. I'm ashamed. That evening, we gathered for the fireworks. Dad pushed Emma to the accessible viewing area, the best view in the entire park. When the show started, Emma's face lit up with wonder. Dad was crying. Thank you for giving me this, for letting me see what I almost threw away. Don't thank me, Dad. Thank Emma. She's the one who deserves this moment. Later that night, after Dad left to drive back to the rental house, Ashley, Kevin, and I sat by the pool while the kids swam. Do you think Mom will ever get it? Ashley asked. I honestly don't know, I said. But Emma will always know that she's loved. That's what matters. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. I told your mother I'm checking out of the rental house early. I'm staying through the rest of the week at a hotel near yours. If you'll have me, I want to spend every remaining day with Emma. She deserves a grandpa who shows up. I showed the text to my siblings. Kevin smiled. That's a start. Yeah, I agreed. It's a start. The rest of the week was magical. Dad joined us every day. He learned about accessibility. He apologized repeatedly to Emma, who forgave him instantly because that's who she is. He took 1,000 photos. Emma with Mickey, Emma on rides, Emma with her cousins. Wheelchairs in every single shot. On our last day, as we were packing to leave, Emma hugged me tight. This was the best vacation ever, Mommy. Yeah, baby, it really was. Because she kept up just fine. She more than kept up. She led the way, showing everyone that disability doesn't diminish joy. It doesn't diminish belonging. It doesn't diminish love. The reception was perfect. The venue overlooked the harbor. The string lights created a warm glow, and 200 guests laughed and celebrated. My husband, Marcus, and I had spent 18 months planning every detail, saving every penny to make this day exactly what we wanted. Then my father stood up to give his toast. I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate my daughter Sarah and her new husband, Marcus, Dad began, his voice carrying across the room. He had 3 glasses of champagne already. I could see it in his flushed face and hear it in his too loud voice. You know, planning a wedding is expensive, he continued. Very expensive. But when you're a father, you do what you have to do for your little girl. I pay for everything you see here tonight. Every detail. Because, well, let's be honest. Marcus's family couldn't afford this kind of celebration. The room went silent. 200 people stopped talking, stopped eating, stopped moving. I felt Marcus's hand tighten on mine under the table. They kept going, oblivious or uncaring. Nothing wrong with that, of course. Not everyone can be successful. But I'm glad I could give my daughter the wedding she deserves. Even if it meant covering everything myself because the groom's side couldn't contribute. He raised his glass. To Sarah and Marcus. A few people awkwardly clinked glasses. Most just sat there, frozen, unsure where to look. I looked at Marcus's parents across the room. His mother's face was pale. His father's jaw clenched. They were both retired teachers, hardworking people who'd raised 3 incredible kids on modest incomes. They'd offered to help with the wedding, but we politely declined because Marcus and I wanted to pay for it ourselves. I looked at my mother, sitting next to Dad. She was staring at her plate, embarrassed, but saying nothing. Then I looked at Marcus, my husband of 3 hours, the man I loved more than anything. The ER nurse who worked doubles to save lives and came home exhausted but still made me laugh. The man who'd worked 2 jobs while earning his nursing degree. The man who'd never asked anyone for anything. His face showed hurt, humiliation, and anger. I stood up. The room's attention shifted to me. I walked to where the DJ was set up and took the microphone. Thank you for that, Dad, I said, my voice steady. But I need to correct something, for the record for everyone here. Dad's smile faltered. Marcus and I paid for this wedding ourselves. Every single dollar. The venue, the food, the flowers, the music, the dress, all of it. We saved for 18 months. We worked extra hours. We made sacrifices. But we did it together, as partners, because that's how we wanted to start our marriage. I looked directly at my father. Dad contributed exactly $0 to this wedding, not because we didn't invite him to, but because we chose not to accept anyone's money. We wanted this to be ours. The silence was deafening. But what's more important than the money is this. Dad just publicly humiliated my husband and his family by suggesting they're poor and couldn't afford to contribute. He implied that Marcus needed to be rescued by my successful father. None of that is true. Marcus stood and joined me. I handed him the microphone. My parents are teachers, Marcus said quietly. They dedicated their lives to educating kids. They're not wealthy, but they're rich in every way that matters. They offered to help with the wedding, and we said no because Sarah and I are adults who wanted to handle this ourselves. He looked at my father. I don't need your money. I never did. What I needed was for my wife's father to treat me with respect on our wedding day. You failed. Marcus handed the microphone back to me. We're going to continue celebrating with everyone who's here to support our marriage, I said. Not to witness false claims or public humiliation. If you're here for the right reasons, please stay. If not, we understand. I returned the microphone to the DJ, and Marcus and I sat back down. For about 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then Marcus's parents stood up and walked over to us. His mother hugged me tightly. His father shook Marcus's hand, pride evident on his face. Then my maid of honor stood and raised her glass. To Sarah and Marcus, to partnerships built on respect and truth. Half the room stood and echoed the toast. My father remained seated, his face red with anger, embarrassment, or both. Over the next hour, the reception continued, but the atmosphere had shifted. People kept approaching our table to quietly apologize for Dad's behavior, to praise us for speaking up, to tell Marcus's parents how much they respected them. But 40 people left early, family members from Dad's side who didn't want to be part of the awkwardness or who felt loyalty to him overrode their support for us. My Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda left without saying goodbye. My cousin Amanda stopped by our table first, whispering, "I'm sorry, but we have to go. You understand." We didn't, but we nodded anyway. My parents left at 10 o'clock, 2 hours before the reception was supposed to end. Mom approached me first. "Sarah, did you have to embarrass your father like that? In front of everyone? Did he have to lie about paying for my wedding? Did he have to insult Marcus's family? He'd been drinking. He didn't mean it the way it sounded. How many ways are there to interpret the groom's family is too poor?" She had no answer. "We're leaving. Your father is very upset. So is my husband. So am I. I hope you're happy with how this turned out." She left before I could respond. Despite everything, the rest of the reception was beautiful. The people who stayed were there for us. They danced, they celebrated, and they made speeches about love, partnership, and respect. Marcus and I had our first dance, cut the cake, and threw the bouquet. But there was a hollow space where my parents should have been. At midnight, as we were saying goodbye to the last guests, Marcus's mother pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you," she said. "It took courage to do what you did, to stand up for your husband, for us, for the truth. I'm sorry you had to hear that. What he said. Don't apologize for him. He said what he said. You corrected it. That's all we can control, how we respond." After everyone left, Marcus and I stayed to help pack up our personal items. We were exhausted, emotionally drained, but also oddly peaceful. We'd stood up for ourselves. We told the truth. We'd started our marriage with integrity. We got back to our apartment at 1 in the morning. We decided against a honeymoon right away. We couldn't afford it after paying for the wedding, and our work schedules didn't align. We planned something for later. I was taking off my jewelry when there was a knock at the door. Marcus looked at me, confused. Who would be here at 1 in the morning? I opened the door. My father stood there. He looked terrible. His tuxedo was rumpled, his eyes red and swollen. He'd been crying. He was holding something in his hands, a small photo album. "Can I come in?" Marcus appeared behind me. "Sir, it's our wedding night. This isn't." "Please," Dad said. "I know I don't deserve it, but please." I let him in. He stood in our small living room, clutching the album like a lifeline. "I've been driving around for 3 hours," he said. "Couldn't go home. Couldn't face your mother. Just drove and thought about what I did." Neither Marcus nor I said anything. "I brought this." He held out the album. "I found it in the garage last week while looking for something else. Haven't opened it in years." I took it. Inside were photos from when I was little. Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Dad at my elementary school graduation. Dad helping me with a science project. Dad and me at father-daughter dances. You were my whole world, he said, his voice breaking. After your mother and I had you, everything I did was for you, to give you opportunities, to make sure you had more than I did growing up. Dad, let me finish, please. He wiped his eyes. I grew up poor, really poor. My father worked 3 jobs and we still struggled. I swore that when I had kids, they'd never know that feeling. So I worked hard, built a business, made money. And somewhere along the way, I started thinking money was the measure of everything. He looked at Marcus. When Sarah told me she was marrying you, I looked you up. Saw you were a nurse. Looked at average nurse salaries, looked at your parents' careers, and I made a judgment. I decided you weren't good enough because you didn't make enough. Sir, Marcus started. I was wrong, completely wrong. Tonight, when I stood up to give that toast, I convinced myself I was the hero, the generous father who'd given his daughter everything. I wanted people to see me as successful, as generous. I wanted credit. But you didn't pay for anything, I said quietly. I know, and that's the worst part. I lied because I wanted people to think I had. Because in my mind, a good father pays for his daughter's wedding. A successful man can afford to. And when you two insisted on paying for it yourselves, I felt diminished somehow, like I'd failed. He sat down heavily on our couch. So I lied, and in lying, I humiliated my daughter, my son-in-law, and his wonderful parents. I ruined your wedding reception. I put my ego ahead of your happiness. 40 people left because of what happened, I said. I know. Your Uncle Robert called me, yelled at me for 20 minutes about what an embarrassment I am. He's not wrong. Marcus sat down across from Dad. Why did you feel the need to put down my family? Even if you had paid, why say it that way? Dad looked at his hands. Because I'm insecure. Because I spent my whole life trying to prove I'm not the poor kid anymore. And I thought diminishing others would elevate me. It's inexcusable. Your parents are incredible people. They raised an incredible son. They did it with integrity and love. They don't need money to be successful. They already are. They are, Marcus agreed. I called them tonight, Dad said. Around 11, to apologize. Your father answered Marcus. Do you know what he said? What? He said, I don't need your apology. Your daughter and my son need your respect. If you can give them that, we'll have no problem. If you can't, stay away from them. Dad smiled sadly. A better man than me, by far. We sat in silence for a moment. I can't undo tonight, Dad said finally. I can't take back what I said in front of 200 people. I can't give you back the reception you deserved. But I can tell you that I'm sorry, deeply, truly sorry, and I can promise to do better. What does better look like? I asked. It means respecting your choices, respecting Marcus, respecting his family. It means keeping my mouth shut about money and success and who can afford what. It means showing up with humility instead of ego. He stood up. It also means leaving you alone on your wedding night instead of making this all about me and my feelings. I'm sorry I came here. I just needed you to know that I understand what I did, and that you were right to correct me publicly. I deserved that and worse. He walked to the door, then turned back. Marcus, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but I'm asking anyway. Give me a chance to be a better father-in-law, a better man. I can't promise I'll get it right immediately. Old habits, old insecurities, they run deep, but I promise I'll try. Marcus looked at me, then back at Dad. Sir, I don't hold grudges, but I also don't tolerate disrespect. You disrespected my parents, my wife, and me tonight. If you want a relationship going forward, it starts with genuine change, not just apologies. I understand. And if we have kids someday, they're never going to hear you talk about money as a measure of worth or hear you put people down for their career choices. That's non-negotiable. Agreed, completely. After Dad left, Marcus and I sat together on the couch. That was unexpected, he said. Everything about today was unexpected. Do you think he meant it? The apology? I think he meant it tonight. Whether he'll mean it in a month, in a year, that's the question. Marcus pulled me close. We stood up for ourselves today, for us, for my parents. That matters more than anything else. 40 people left. 160 stayed, and they stayed because they support us, not because they wanted free food and an open bar. We found out who really cares. That's valuable information. He was right. The people who'd stayed were the ones who mattered. The ones who'd left had shown us where their priorities were. How's this for a wedding night? I said. Public humiliation, family drama, and a 2 a.m. visit from my father. Marcus laughed. Well, it's memorable. Our kids are going to love this story. Are they? Sure. The day Mom publicly fact-checked Grandpa at her own wedding. It's a classic. I smiled despite everything. Think we'll laugh about this eventually? I think we'll laugh about it tomorrow. Right now, though, I'm exhausted. We went to bed as the sun was starting to rise. Our wedding day was over. It hadn't been perfect. It had been messy, complicated, and painful in parts. But it had also been honest. We'd stood up for ourselves. We defended each other. We'd started our marriage with truth instead of comfortable lies. And maybe that was more valuable than a perfect reception. The photo album Dad had brought sat on our coffee table, evidence of a relationship that had been good once and might be good again if he did the work. We'd see. Time would tell if tonight's apology was real or just another performance. But regardless, Marcus and I had each other. We had the truth. We had the 160 people who'd stayed. And we had a marriage built on respect, partnership, and the courage to speak up when it mattered, even if it meant correcting your own father in front of 200 wedding guests.